Hello guys and welcome to our channel Bio Brigade. This is Sahar Srivastav along with Namita Yadav, and today we are going to interview an assistant professor from UCM Chile. And this video is not is this video is going to be focusing on another important aspect that we most of the time neglect. Here we are going to explain the journey of how she became an assistant professor in Chile. And this is more about fellowships in India, how to prepare for net examination, and yeah, let's get started with it.
So, hi guys, I am Namita and my friend Sohad. We are back today with another interview session with Dr. Aparna Banerjee, who's an assistant professor right now in UCM Chile. And we hope you like this session, and we hope that we be able to get all your answers and queries answered this time. So, let's start. I'll introduce Dr. Aparna Banerjee to you, and I'll ask Sohad to start.
Sure. So first of all, hello Aparna and welcome to our channel. And please tell us a little bit more about yourself, like where are you from and what you do, and how have you been during these pandemic times?
Hi, I'm Aparna Banerjee and I'm basically from West Bengal. The city name is Asansol. So I'm born in Asansol, brought up there, my school and everything. And then for my bachelor's, I did it in biotechnology. I shifted to another city that is between Asansol and Kolkata, and the name is Bardwan. Bardwan in English and Bardhaman in Hindi. So there I did my bachelor's. Then for master's in biotechnology, I shifted to another city, and that's like the southeast part of West Bengal near to the sea. The name of the university is Vidyasagar University. And then after completion of that, for a time, I left to Delhi to have some coaching, because at that time I realized that in biotechnology, we don't get enough exposure to the basic science. And in order to qualify the national entrance exam in India, we need to have we need to be well equipped in both the basic science and then the applied science of specifically in biological sciences. So in Delhi, that was like a life changing moment. So I learned many things and how to survive, most importantly, in an environment where I am not so much common. So after that, I started a PhD program in a government funded project. Actually, it was a project funded PhD. So after doing 1 year of work, I felt no, I don't belong to there. It was a part of work that I was not getting interest. So I felt it's very important that we have the interest on what we do. So after 1 year, I left that and I joined another PhD, and that was on microbiology. So I did my bachelor's and master's project both on microbiology, and this time I really get interest. But though my previous works was on drug resistance bacteria, but this time I started working on bacteria that survive in extreme environment. And the extreme hostile environment can be anything, and India is very rich on that. Like we have glaciers, we have hot springs, we have hydrothermal vents, like in Lonar Lake in Maharashtra, that's a hypersaline lake. We have mud volcanoes, and there are so many different biological diversity in India that enriches the microbial diversity also. And it's interesting how the microorganisms survive in that kind of environment, where the normal human being, for them it's difficult to survive, or even they don't survive in a temperature like 70 degree or 80 degree centigrade. So I worked on hot spring and part of also Southern Ocean Antarctic expedition sample, because my PhD supervisor, he has been the first one from India who went to the Antarctic expedition and worked on the biological diversity, microbial diversity part of the Southern Ocean Antarctica. So I was lucky on to work on that. And after finishing my PhD, I shifted to Chile. And Chile is also like India. It's very extreme, the environment. The North Atacama Desert is the driest point of the world. Then in the south, we have Patagonia, and then the Chilean Antarctic region that have a lot of glaciers and have permafrost regions. And then the entire Chile have mountains. And these mountain, because of the tectonic activities, a lot of earthquakes are there in Chile almost every month, every weeks. And there are volcanoes, and the volcanoes result into a lot of hot springs. Around there are 400 active volcanoes in Chile. So imagine how much hot springs can be there. And most of them are till now not worked or unexplored till date. So I started working, my postdoctoral work was on that. And then I got one project in by the government of Chile, and then I got a tenure track position as assistant professor. And then I continued working on the same, because in a time of global warming and climate change, the way we are losing the ecosystem, it's very important that we know what are there in our environment before we lose it. Or for example, the increasing anthropogenic footprint that we are having because of increasing tourist pressure in any extreme environment. If you go to Manikaran region of India, you will see how many people are taking shower in the hot spring, and the biofilm that were preserved over there, the microbial footprint, have got worst by this time, and we even couldn't know what was there, for example. So and apart of that, I have interest on biodiversity conservation. I am vocal on that. And during pandemic, it was an interesting, challenging moment for me, because even in Chile, I knew there were many researchers who left to the country because they thought this will be for a month, this will be for 2 months, like that. And then many people, many of my known friends, they got stuck to different countries. For example, went to India, got stuck there. So, in my case, I was thinking, let's see how much I can survive like that. But I didn't stop the work. Even during my project, I thought, let's just continue the laboratory work, not the analysis part, because that for the analysis part, we need to send samples to different university, and probably it will not work. So in the project has been done, 1 year has been done. The first year of the project, we need to send one report. And I see, oh God, I have almost finished like 60% of the project, because I didn't have time for the analysis, but I had the time for the laboratory. So I put all my effort to do the laboratory work, and I was grateful enough that I had good students and good project assistant who was working with me. Without the support of everyone, you cannot do this. So it was, and most importantly, I got time for me, and I started doing many things new. I started reading on mental health awareness in academia, and I was trying to get into touch with the people who have suffered something in academia, and for some reason they have left. I tried to build more interactions with the people, with students or with researchers, because otherwise earlier we used to have a big day of laboratory work or office work, but that got shortened due to the pandemic, and I got more time, and I got time to read books. Now presently I'm reading this, it's Nelson Mandela, No Easy Walk to Freedom. So I started reading this now. So we are basically getting time. I think for you both also the same, we are getting much time for us than earlier in pandemic.
Yes, well, they're very, very true. I mean, we've got time to reflect on our all our decisions, like
Yes.
the correct ones as well as the incorrect ones. So, okay, so I would just like you to, if you could just briefly shed some light on what got you interested in this field of biology in the first place. Like, as a kid, everyone has a dream, like someone wants to be an engineer because XYZ incident happened. So what was that trigger for you which made you interested in biology in general?
This is an interesting question. I think if I tell the truth, the, I will not say that I was like interested in biology all over my life. No, it was not like that. I was a kid who had more interest in knowing the planet. I remember that when I was my age was 5 or 6. I was in my class 2, 1. This time I started seeing maps, and my father was the one who was like be with me. He was showing me the capital countries of the world and how the world is, the stars, like that. So I tried to get more interest on the planet and what the cities have. I started with my father. That was like that 5, 6 years till 7, 8 standard. We saw a lot of National Geographic and Discovery. And I remember I had so much interest on Amazon even before knowing Amazon is a rainforest and it's in Brazil. So I was like loving the environment Amazon have, loving the way Egypt was. And that's the way I got more into the geography of our planet and how diverse the world is. Even before knowing geography, I knew almost all the capital countries of the world for my father, because he was the person who put my interest on that. And I was also very keen on Bengali and English literature. So I used to read a lot of literatures both on Bengali and English. But as the time passes in India, it's like you cannot take the subject that you want. Now it's changing, but in till the time we all are, we used to read science or art, something like that. So I was like bound to take science, because that time I realized that physics is not my cup of tea, and I never liked mathematics. So I thought that biology is something that I like, because that was the moment I understand that I don't like the geography. I like the environment as our planet is. So that was a triggering point during when people were really pushing me. When my school people was pushing me, you are a student of arts, you should go into humanities. You are so good in Bengali literature. And I was like, I used to be first in every kind of zonal competition of debate, extempore, this kind of thing. I used to like poetries. But then at that time, my father told, look, there is two things. One is what you like, and one is what you can continue for all your life. There is big difference between these two. And that time I understand that, oh, I like really biology, because probably in West Bengal board, we didn't have biology as a subject before. We had life science, and life science and biology is very different both. So in 11th and 12th, I chose biology. That time I really understand that I'm liking this subject. So in that time, I left all other subject aside, and I used to study only biology, and chemistry I used to like a lot also. So as it finished, I got devastating marks in mathematics. People didn't expect that I can get that marks, because I was always a good student in my school. So many people have this idea in India, if you are not good in mathematics, you are not good in anything, like that. Even without knowing, as a kid, I knew, even if I don't know mathematics, nothing is going to hamper my career, because I know one subject and I am going to do in that. My cousin was a doctor. She was is a doctor now, and he used to study that time medicine. So he was the one who told me more about biology, and I used to learn from him. That time genetics and molecular biology was very new to India, like 2007. I'm talking about 2007. And he told, you can study with this subject, these are new subject, you have a lot of opportunities, you can go to outside. And he was the person who put that interest on me about the new field of applied biology. So there was a lot of person, actually. Even during 9th and 10th standard, there was, her name was also Apurna, and she used to be a nurse in a hospital, and my neighbor. But what I used to do is, I used to go to her and used to learn from her, like, okay, I didn't understand this part, can you just explain me this? And she used to explain just like a sister. So I think she was also a person who put a lot of interest of biology on me. There was my sister. She has studied geophysics, but she has teach me a lot of part of chemistry. My father part of mathematics, English. So there was a lot of person who put, but I understand I like biology more. Then during the bachelor's degree, I I chose biotechnology for two reasons. Because biotechnology was very new at that time. I wanted to explore of the field of biology, and really didn't wanted to take zoology or botany, the traditional field, because I got in zoology, but I thought, let's try something new. So in biotechnology, I got there. And the reason was also the biotechnology course was relatively near to my city in Bardhaman, and the genetics course I was getting in Kolkata. And my parents were like, take smaller step to go out far. So I went to Bardhaman hostel for biotechnology. That part was the best. Like, one thing I understand at that point, after I got the result of the first year, I understand the subject biology, but I scored much less than others. And I realized that my problem is English, because there have been a lot of students who have been from English medium. They are very well acquired to read English books, and they are just grasping and vomiting in the exam and getting good marks. Whereas I know, but I cannot explain, because my English is not that strong like the others. So in second year, I started spending more time on that. I remember I used to start at 6 and I end up at 2, and I never really felt tired of studying, because I left the syllabus aside. I was taking Karp for molecular biology, Leninzer for biochemistry, and like I used to read it like a storybook. Every day at some point of time, 1 or 2 hours I used to put for each books. And then second year, I remember my result was among the best. I was the second in my college. So if you really target on something, you can do it. My weak point was I was not so much good in English like the English medium student, but I did it because I focused on that. And then after finishing the biotechnology, my score was good, and I thought continuing in same. Many changed the stream, but I thought no, if I have biotechnology my bachelor's, let's have my master's also in biotechnology. So during the masters, I was really focused on the last year project work, because there you get a 4 to 5 months of really hard work on laboratory. So I started applying in different parts, and I got it in Calcutta Medical College, School of Tropical Medicine, there to do my project. And I was happy because my special paper was pharmaceutical and medical biotechnology, and I also worked on the same area of microbiology, medical microbiology. And masters end that day was, oh god, very difficult, because after ending masters you really don't know which path you will go. Everything ends there. The like For us, the general degree that ends in someone's life is masters. PhD is an extra short. If you want to get it, get. But the family also, your family is very well known to masters, but not that to PhD. They want you to have a masters, but not like, you need to have a PhD, not that much. So, and I also realized that I cannot qualify NET just like this, because my knowledge in the syllabus of NET is very much into biotechnology. I don't know the systematics part. I don't know the botany and zoology part. So I went that time to Delhi for the coaching. I don't tell anyone to take coaching. It's not like saying that coaching is good. If you can study everything by your own, study. But in India, to get a PhD with fellowship, without fellowship, how to survive for 5 years? It's impossible. So in order to have a fellowship, you need to qualify NET or GET anything, or SAT or ICMR, DBT, ICR, anything. So after qualifying, then I started PhD, and that's the way like it continues. And I believe that I am a second version of me, because in PhD, when I started my second PhD, the one that I had with my Professor Rajiv Bandyopadhyay, he has been like the motivating person for me. He has been the one who always talks positive. He talks about his experiences in United States, in South Korea, in Antarctica, and his line of interest and his journey of academic life was so diverse that we used to dream. We used to listen from him and like, I can also do that like this. And then he was a person who always boosts others. He told that apply for the National Academy of Science Young Scientist Award, apply for the Indian Science Congress Young Scientist Award. So I was really, it's young scientist, I was really very young that time. I was just on my PhD, 25, 26 years old, and I got two big award that time, National Academy Science India Award, and then Indian Science Congress Association Young Scientist Award. That moment when I got the award, Indian Science Congress, we know our Prime Minister opens this and have a legacy Indian Science Congress year by year. That moment, I really understand that science valued me and I need to repay it back. That was the moment when I saw that a lot of people taking my photos, and there was so many photographers in front of the stage. And the next day in Business Standard, my photo came there. And I really felt so good that my days were difficult. I had a lot of struggle. The way I'm saying, it was not so easy, because in general Indian family, for women it's never easy to explain. For my family it was not, but for my relatives it was probably. For aside people it was probably. For many of my friends, one woman is doing that, there should be some other reason she is getting the things. These are some naked truth in society that we have for added hindrances for women. But then it was easy. Then I didn't listen to anyone actually. When I wanted to come to South America, there was a lot of people who told, she want to go alone to America and you are leaving your girl. And I'm thankful to get my parents, because they told it's her life and her decision. If she want to do it, we are no one to tell her a no. And so there are two people who have been like strong behind me all the time where I am. and just I wanted to do it. The only reason I think I really wanted to have a doctor written in front of my name. As a kid, I want to listen because my cousin used to write doctor. So I, from him, I really understand. He used to say doctor is a prefix in front of your name that don't have Mr. or Miss. It's only DR, doctor. Don't have any gender imbalance on that. But now I really don't like to write doctor anymore because I feel I'm not a doctor. Doctor are the people who saves others. I'm just a doctorate of philosophy. But as a kid, that was the reason. So because you, the way you all are, these kids, like this generation of kid, just after 10 years, when I see you all, I'm very new to Instagram, academic Instagram, this kind of thing, academic Twitter. I just shifted because I really wanted to know what the world is doing. And when I got to know people so young like you all, I felt I wish I would have been like you all during my time. And I was not like this, believe me. I really, I that time bioinformatics was new. I was not so comfortable with computer. At third year of my bachelor's degree, I first shifted from computer to laptop because the time was different 10 years back. But the way you all are interested in this age to listen to the people who are doing science is very new, believe me. In my time, I remember I never heard anyone who like who is a researcher. I listen to many professors, but not to any researchers because we didn't had that exposure 10 years back probably. Not that actually mathematics is not important. I think more the mathematics that we have in biology is statistics.
Yeah.
Nowadays, more in the application that we have is statistics. And with the time when you are in biology, you will realize it because in your experiment, you only need, for example, standard deviation. So just do that part. It's not needed to learn an entire course. For this, I feel a big change in the education system in India is needed so that we can learn what we want, not like what is forced on us to study.
That's very true, actually. I think your answer was really, it covered almost all the possible fields that we wanted you to answer, like from role models to the language difficulties that people face, the PhD dilemma, the biggest challenge that every science student faces is, should I go for a PhD or should I try to go for a job? You talked about fellowships in India, and most importantly, you talked about women in STEM. I mean, being a man, to be very honest, I feel proud looking at all the women around me doing amazing science. Like I've seen some amazing scientists and my seniors and everyone, from the ones who are preparing for medical examinations to people, to women like Namita who are studying really amazing in institutes like ISER, to you who are doing, who is an assistant professor in Chile. It's really inspiring, to be honest, and it really feels amazing to know that women in our country are doing great. They are finally, getting what they've always deserved. So let's just moving on with that. I would like to shift for the focus a little bit from India to Chile. So I would like to really know what exactly made you to look for Chile. I mean, to be honest, usually Chile is not exactly the destination that students look for. Usually they want to go to USA or the Europe, the European countries, or South Korea, Singapore. These are very famous destinations these days. What made you go towards Chile? What made you to shift your focus towards Chile?
Actually, I really didn't wanted to come to Chile, but particularly in Chile. It's not that. I was also trying to get in European countries because I really wanted to go to Europe. I was in during my PhD, I was frankly speaking applying for some sandwich program, DAD and then Newton Bhabha like this. But then when I couldn't crack Newton Bhabha and I didn't apply to DAD anymore because I knew that if I shift so many times trying for to get a sandwich program, I will just lose one more year because when you don't get this year and you again apply next year, so you are just losing more years. That time my PhD supervisor asked me, if your objective of PhD is finished, Aparna, why you don't submit it? Because in doctorate you don't get that complete area of research by your own. You have to go beyond that and you have to try your luck after that. So why you don't go for postdoc and try your luck after this? So that time I plan to submit my thesis. And one difficult point in India is because after we submit the thesis, we directly don't get the certificate. We get a provisional certificate for PhD. And with that provisional certificate, we cannot apply to the fellowships, big fellowships in United States or Europe. For example, we cannot apply for a Germany fellowship for PhD program. We can get in someone lab, but not a standard fellowship that covers the entire thing. Also, we cannot get Fulbright with that provisional certificate. So, and frankly speaking, I never thought of going to South Korea or China. I don't know why. I really don't know. So I during my PhD, actually, I went to these parts, Thailand and these parts, for some conferences. So I already knew some universities there, some researchers who are working in Asia. So I really wanted to go beyond Asia for the reason. And this time the postdoctoral supervisor with whom I have worked, she used to be, I did her publications during my PhD, and she was in Brazil that time, the time I read her publications. But then I was applying to people in mail, and I realized that in mail some people just don't reply you. You just send mails after mails, and you then don't get just reply from them. So I don't know why, but I started doing Twitter, and in Twitter I started following 3-4 researchers, and then I saw many people post many openings, new openings kind of thing. And I just wrote to the first woman for postdoc there, and she was kind enough to tell me that there can be some opening in Chile, and if I want I can come here. So then I shifted to Chile. The reason was probably I had a lot of interest in Amazon. I really have a lot of interest in the biogeography of South America. And so the moment I thought Chile, I thought, it's something like Brazil. Let's go. There will be a lot of nature. I will like it. It will be a new experience. And let's just see for 1 or 2 years. That was the initial idea of me when I came. But I came to Chile, my idea of Chile changed, because in staying in Asia, we really don't know much about South America. But here we call like Chile is the United States of South America, and the economic state of the Chile is highest in Latin America, the entire Latin America. Also, Chile is the happiest country according to the happiness index presently in Latin America. So it's actually, I think it's among the top 20 livable country in the world. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. The people are nice. They are warm. There is funding, because in science, without fund, you cannot do anything. So I was really not sure to live in Chile for a long time. Initially, I was like 1 or 2 years. My contract was for 1 year, renewable for 1 more year. But then I got this project, and that moment was that another moment like Indian Science Congress Young Scientist Award. That government gave me a funding of, in Indian money, it's 79 lakhs Indian money. And for a starting career scientist in India, get a fund of 79 lakh is people dream, because the fund that government give for UGC minor project 5 to 15 lakhs, and their 79 lakhs is a big money for 3 years. So I thought, if the government has believed on me, here the people have believed on me, I need to live here. And I got the university for me here is like a family. The moment I had a problem, I talked to my dean, I talked to my vice chancellor, and here a lot of women, like in our university, the dean is a woman, the vice chancellor is a woman. So with all of them, I really never felt that the initial 1 year was difficult. It was truly difficult for many other reasons. For a single woman in a new country, for the language change, culture change, many things. But slowly it got fine, and I started liking it. And then I also realized that the country really doesn't matter, because I know many of my friends who are there in United States ended one postdoc, shifted to another postdoc, then another postdoc, then another postdoc, and then they take so much time to get a tenure track. But without a tenure track, how long it is viable to have a life of insecurity, to have a life to work under others, and you are not able to apply your own ideas. So I'm lucky enough that I got the project in a very early time of my career, Not everyone get it so early. So I'm lucky in that way, and I continued living in Chile for that. And then another very important thing apart of this, when I really got that postdoc position and I started studying about the geography of Chile, and I talk about Atacama Desert, Patagonia, Andes Mountain, all these. Chile also have acidic hot spring. Chile also have geysers, fumarolas, many things that are very less available in different part of world. The environment of Chile is very extreme, and being a extreme microbiologist who works on extreme environment, this was very interesting for me. Like, because for us it's very important, when you work, the first publication comes, the first exploration of microbial diversity of this area. So this is important for us, and that was the interesting thing, to study something new. And that was one key triggering point why I really wanted to stay in Chile.
Okay, that's actually really inspiring, to be honest. So, like you talked about the dean and chancellor of your university. So, how exactly is the ambience of UCM? Like, from a student perspective, if possible, if you could shed some light, how exactly do the students feel at UCM, the international students, and how did you feel? What was your feeling about the reception of an international person in the university?
Mm, I think there have been no very few international students outside of Latin America. There are a lot of international students from Brazil, from Peru, from Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and the other part of Latin America, some part of Europe also. I know few Italian students who came, part of North America, Mexican students, but really very less international student I have seen from Asia or Australia. So I really don't know about the life of international student in master's level in our university. I am not so aware of that. But I know few doctoral student who are from Colombia, for example, or few doctoral student who are from Argentina. So I know some of them, and they are actually, the good thing in Latin America is all the countries speak same language, Spanish. So then I guess, this is my guess, that they never feel that they never felt excluded, because everyone speak the same language. For example, if a Bengali goes to Bangladesh and speak the same language and eat the same food, at least you feel like you are near to home. So it's not that kind of extreme thing. And in part of me, when I arrived here, I really felt welcome, because when I arrived, I thought I didn't had any touch with Spanish. I just arrived and I thought, it's America, people will speak English, at least let's go. I was not taking it seriously until the time I came here, and I realized, no, people really don't speak English that much. People speak Spanish here. And but well, all the workers of university don't speak English to you, but they really want to understand what you want to say, and they have that school level English that they know. With that only they try to help you. And I all the time, because many times the authorities changes, from for one person another person come the next year, shifting that person. But whatever the situation has been in UCM, I all the time felt very included. I think the good part of UCM is this: it's the university all the time feels like a family. And the work, for example, in India, many times for the official things, from one to another to another to another, it takes a lot of time to get one signature. And here that level of bureaucracy is much less. So there are two things. In India, you stay in home, you get the comfort, you are living in the ambience that you know, that you are adjusted with, the system that you are well acquainted. But then in another country, you know everything from the beginning, but then if you get help, then the things get easier. I think that's the reason. It was initially difficult, but then I started adjusting.
So moving on to the next question, I would like to ask you that could you shed some light on how to apply to your university as a doctoral student, as in how many recommendations are required, and do everyone get a scholarship and funding, and how important are the letter of recommendation? And as an international student, especially from India, how will these things shape our application for?
The one thing about doctoral program here about fellowship is here is also there is one, they call it beca in Spanish, like the fellowship we call in English. So there is the government page that have this kind of fellowship is called Fondesit or Conicet, ANID or Fondesit. And this ANID, the National Agency of Investigation, ANID, they have a lot of fellowships. There is some international PhD student fellowship also. I think that there is need of 2 research paper to get that. So one person need to have a research line, and probably during the masters only they should think of having some publication. This is not only about UCM, it's about getting any international PhD program in a good university. They need some publication to see what is your research interest, and your research interest or SOP, statement of purpose, I think is very important to get one PhD program outside. So with whomever I have talked, I just told that try to get some publication, maybe a review work can be, but in a good journal, or can be one bioinformatics work or part of a computational science work. But even if it's not possible to get in laboratory work or in, but I understand that in Indian scenario it's very difficult to get some publication in the master's level. But that's the thing that you need to have to get a PhD program outside. That's like one of the minimum criteria, to have some previously exposed research, because here in the masters people have 1 year of research experience dedicated to research, and that's the time they get some publication. And also here it's not like India that after bachelor's you just shifted to masters. Here after bachelor's people go for a work experience, for example for 4-5 years, then they have some experience of the work, then they came to the masters, and in the masters they started doing the literature survey and all these. Then during this stage of literature survey they find their own line of interest, they started writing something. So here the master is most like less academic and more research. But here there are the 2 kind of masters actually. One is a academic master and another is a industrial master. So the industrial part they only focus into job and this kind of things, but the academic or research kind of masters they focus more into the research. So this is my suggestion, that to have some publications prior to apply for any international PhD program anywhere.
I would continue my question from here, because you mentioned that getting research paper is really important for people like us who don't have a lot of knowledge about how to get one published. Could you please share your experience or some tips or tricks that we can also get our papers published?
For example, one person is having one special paper in food biotechnology, and they are studying food biotechnology just from the paper, and they have some research experience in some laboratory for 3-4 months. During this time, the basic thing that you need to do is searching the publications related to food biotechnology in Google Scholar. But when you are searching, you will get in Google Scholar don't have that filter, so you will get a lot of journals that are fake journals. So to search that, just stick on to Elsevier, Springer, Nature, MDPI, more the Oxford Publication House, Springer Nature, something Taylor and Francis, something like the publication house that are more well known. So just stick on to that. And also when you are searching a paper and the format don't look so much professional, just get sure that it's from a fake journal. So try to avoid that, because when you are reading the paper from a fake journal, you cannot shape up your writing skill or the things. So then another thing comes. For example, you get one field, plant enzymes as food additives in the industry. Can be plant enzymes as a food additives, because many times the enzymes that we get from the plant, they have antioxidant property, and in food industry many times we use the enzymes from plant to increase the nutritional quality of the food. This is just an example. In anything it can be any. So when you start reading this, maybe you get that a group of gymnosperms are producing one kind of enzyme, can be, or a group of angiosperms are producing a different kinds of enzyme. So in your small field, you get 2-3 diversions and try to search how many publications are there in each that kind of diversions. So for example, you get one diversion till date have good publications, maybe nearly 70 or 80. Or when you get more than that, stop writing on that, because if many people already have written one review article in one topic, what's the necessity of writing another review, isn't it? A title cannot be plant in food biotechnology. This cannot be a title because this is such a big thing to write. You can write one book but not a paper. So you have to be really precise on what you need to write. And then you, for any review paper, try to search a standard review paper from some journal that are for review. For example, Trends in Biotechnology is a journal that is focused on review. Critical reviews in microbiology, critical reviews in biotechnology. This kind of journal, go to there and try to see. There are different this kind of journals for different science. For example, there can be critical reviews in chemistry. They can find their related things in that kind of journal. So just try to find how the way they are explaining, how the way they are writing, because a research paper and a review paper is very different to write. And then in review paper, you need to be really very organized. For example, you downloaded 80 publications. Try to arrange the 80 publications with the name of the authors and then arrange in 3-4 folders, because can be out of that 80 publications, some are very introductory, some are very research oriented, and some only related very distantly with the topic that you want. So with the folders that you arrange, it's easy for you to pick up from there the publications. So try to distribute them. It's very important that in introduction, you start in general. For example, what is the plant enzymes? What are their applications? And from there, plant enzymes have the applications in food industry. Then why food industry new kind of additives, for example, why the chemical additives are dangerous and why we should take natural additives, because the chemical additives, for example, can have many toxic effect in our body for prolonged consumption. So you came to there, and then in our present review, we are trying to focus in this. So when you write a review, you need to be a broad area. Then it's like, should be like a tier. Then a little inside, and then what you are trying to get. And then you can have one paragraph on history, what the people have been done till now and why this field is needed. Then there should be 2-3 paragraphs on the new techniques of this relevant field. There should be there should not be any plagiarized image copied from one journal. For example, nowadays there are some good image making website like BioRender, for example. It's a good and professional image making thing. So you can prepare your own idea of the technique and you can make your own image so that it is not plagiarized from any other source. And then you can make one table, for example, of the advancement in the last 5 years or the last 10 years of your field. Then you can make some patent analysis of your field. There are some patent analysis tool like Reliqueur or something like that. You can also do some bioinformatic analysis of the enzymes or the proteins, how many are there in the data set. And then in the conclusion, you need to see that what has been the trend and what you can predict in the future. So basically, it should have one introduction, one conclusion and future prospect. And the inside this cage depends upon you, what you are getting in your topic and how you want to distribute that. So that depends upon how the other people in the related area are writing that paper. This is one basic thing, but this totally doesn't matter in original research article, because in original research article you will have introduction, materials and methods, then point by point what are the materials or what are the methodologies that you have used with the references, and then the results and discussion. One by one you write down the result, discuss it with the available literature, and then the conclusion. And another thing, in review you just cannot copy the writing from any place. You need to write your own line. So read from a paper, get your own idea and write it, because when you don't do it, it will get plagiarized again. And another thing, for anything that you write, it should not come from your heart. I think this and I just write. No. For example, you get an information from a paper, you always need to cite that with X et al. The year. So anything that you write, cite accordingly with the bibliography. this is some basic things for any writing any papers. I think it can be done. For example, even in your university, there can be some professor who really have interest on research. So just try to find one mentor. I think now I am part of the Bioinformatics Society of India. It's called BioClues organization, and BioClues have one very key line of BioClues: mentor-mentee relationship. Because when a student really don't have any mentor who can just tell them, just do this. For example, the student don't need anything; they're very intelligent, but they need to hear do this, and then they can do it. So try to find one mentor who can just guide you in your line of interest with some suggestion, or try to publish with, for example, one of your senior is living in Australia, for example, and she is working also on chemistry and you are also in chemistry. Try to build a relationship with that person and tell that I want to write with something, guide me, or let me get involved in your project so that I can have something. This is a way so that you build your network and try to be involved in the work of others who are doing.
Thank you so much for this. I guess now maybe we'll be able to build our own path for writing a research paper, because for a long time of period we are deciding that we'll write, but we always are just lagging behind. We are sometimes, we have all these things, but then we're like, how to do it, when to do it, will it be all right? But I guess with your suggestions and tips, we just might this time be a little more motivated and dedicated. So thank you so much for this. Moving on to the last question that we have for you. So now that we know about your background, your research interest, your journey, we would ask you to give some tips for all the students back here in India and everyone who's watching us, that how to be motivated all the time and how do you cope up with the things when you feel like just giving up, because there are some time in your life when you feel like, no, I don't want to do this. So what is your mantra for this to be consistent?
I think I have never felt this thing to leave this. I'm not such kind of person. I have been always very focused in my life that I will, no matter what, I will continue. And I think this gives me one energy to live in life. I'm like, hi, it's difficult. Let's do this. Something like this. Many times I'm so much occupied with many duties because I really don't understand that at one point of time I should also say a no. Nowadays I'm trying to understand this, how to say a no, but I really want to interact. I want to get me involved in different projects. I think the easiest way to get motivated is be involved in different projects. Don't have so much leisure time with you that you start thinking of other things, something else, because the life after that you will have so much leisure time at one point of time if you don't focus, but you will not get leisure time in your life if you just focus at this point of time. So there is two options: if you just focus and don't get any leisure time in your life after that, and you really enjoy your life after that. And the another thing is not focusing now. So if you stop this, this time of the masters, I think, is the most critical point of time for any student's life, because the student really don't know they should go for a job, they should go for research. So this time I think the most important thing is really understanding. Some people really don't have research interest on research, so there is no need to go on research. They can go for job. And the people who have interest on research, I cannot say how to be focused on job because I have never done that. So for research, I think the important thing is, I have seen many of my colleagues started with a big interest, started speaking about we will publish only in Nature. I have heard this in my some of my colleagues that they will publish only in Nature. Believe me, 5 6 years passed and never published in Nature. So don't stop having that kind of dreams that looks very lucrative but is very difficult to get. Start thinking that I will publish one good article in a Elsevier or Springer journal, because from India, from my laboratory, from my situation, I can get that. It's not easy to get that also. It's not easy to finish an entire research article in this time period. But if you want, you can do that. And I think one line that I so much like is that poetry of Robert Frost: the woods are empty, dark and deep, and I have promises to keep, miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. that line, I think from 11th standard there in my heart. And in front of my PhD university, Bardhaman University, there is a statue of J.C. Bose, Jagadish Chandra Bose. So for us, I all the time think that statue of Jagadish Chandra Bose is like the god of botany for us. And he used to hold a plant in the hand. The statue was like that. And a quotation of Jagadish Chandra Bose was written that the true laboratory is our mind, where behind illusion we uncover the laws of truth. So we need to cultivate this mind. If we stop cultivating, if we stop reading, if we stop getting interest on this world, imagine what is the age of a student finishing a master's? 22, 23, 24, not more than that. The life is maybe 64 years, still 64. So till 24, if you finish everything, go into the field, go into a family, go into a job, and then your life becomes just that 9 to 5 thing, and you have to live 40 more years with that. I'm telling less, can be 60 also. But imagine how difficult the life will be then. But then if you do something where you are really getting interested and you devote all your time to the, for example, in this time of pandemic, when it was really not needed for me to go to laboratory every day, I went because I knew that if I stop doing that, my habit of going to laboratory will be closed. Even being an assistant professor now, I still go to laboratory every day. I just don't give all my work to the student or to the project assistant who are doing. Because if I stop doing that one day, I will lose that interest. So to be on that, you just need to do that. Don't stop that for a day.
So thank you from my side and Sohad's side for doing this interview. It really means a lot to us.
Thank you so much. We will be connected, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And for everyone who's watching this, we'd like to add one more thing. We'll add the details of Dr. Aparna's Instagram handle as well. She's on Instagram as Academic Voyage. I'm sure of that. I don't know if she's on Facebook, so we'll ask her all the details and we'll add in the description box. So thank you, Dr. Aparna.
Thank you so much.
It was
so much.
fun.
Have a good.
Thank you so much for watching the entire video. And we hope that you liked it. And if you did, please don't forget to like our video, share it with all your friends who need to watch this. And please don't forget to subscribe to Bio Brigade. And as usual, if you have any queries at all, please feel free to mention in the comments down below, or else you have the Instagram handles in the description box. You can always DM us with your queries. We have also mentioned the links to the website and Instagram handles to our guests tonight. And thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a good day.